Hello students, welcome to Algebra Chapter 9, Section 2 as we get into quadratic functions, and we're going to be looking at some a little more difficult problems, graphing problems than we had in the previous section. So this is the note template in front of you if you don't have it. Hopefully it's on my website. Check there, please. If not, let me know. All right, let's just start reading through things after you put your name on it. And here we go. Right here, start reading here. There's a lot of information. The thing with these chapters as we get farther into the year, there's so much detail compacted into one section. So this says recall that the general equation for a quadratic function is this: y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Really important that you know that that number in front of the x squared we're going to call a, the number in front of the x is b, and the constant number is added is c. All right, so that's a quadratic function because the highest power is 2. So I'm going to erase that because I'm going to need a little bit of room here to write, because this is a big deal right here. Using this general equation, the equation for the axis of symmetry is this. Okay, x equals negative b over 2a. X equals negative b over 2a. Okay, this is a big deal. Why? Right here. Since we learned in the last section the vertex lies on the axis of symmetry, what that tells us is the x-coordinate of the vertex is negative b over 2a. So if you found that, you have found x, the x part of the coordinate for the vertex. All right, listen, this is huge for us. This is huge because when we find that vertex and the symmetry line, remember we can find 2 points for 1. If you find 1, you find the distance from the symmetry line, and you found another point. All right, I'm going to put up my shade here to try to help guide what I want you looking at. And this part of your notes here, it says, what are the equation of the axis of symmetry and the coordinates of the vertex for this particular graph? Y equals 3x squared plus 6x minus 4. Now what you'll notice here is that this one is a little more complicated from the previous section because we have a middle term here, not just the a term and the c term. So it's a little more difficult. So right here they're going to walk you through this problem. All right, the first thing you have to do, step 1, I'm going to refer to these steps when we get into the examples soon, is to find the equation for the axis of symmetry. And you have to use this x equals negative b over 2a. Understanding that from this equation here, all right, a is 3, b is 6, and I wish they would have written c is negative 4. You need to write that down when you start these problems. Just identify what is a, b, and c. Ax squared plus bx plus c. That's where those numbers came from. So they took this equation, they took the b is 6, okay, so they put negative 6 right there because it's always the opposite of b. And then you divide it by 2 times the value of a. So a was 3, so that's where this came from. And then you just do the math because that works out to be negative 6 divided by 6, and that's where this negative 1 came from. So what you've just found here is you have found the x value of the vertex. So I know that the vertex value, I know that now that the x is negative 1. But guess what? You have to figure out what y is now. All right, so that's what they're showing you in the notes. Find the value of y if x is negative 1. Well, the only way to do that is to substitute. You're going to substitute this value back into the original equation, which was up here. So that's what they're showing you right here. There's the original equation, top line, and they're going to put the negative 1 right there. Now, here's what happens on this. They kind of didn't show you everything. If you would add this to your notes, when you do this math, that means 3 times negative 1 squared. Well, 3 times negative 1 squared, negative 1 to the power of 2 means negative 1 times negative 1. So this becomes 1 right here. This negative 1 in parentheses to the power of 2 became 1. All right, it's plus 6 times negative 6 is negative 6. Minus 4 means plus negative 4. Negative 6 plus negative 4. Whoops. Like that. So now you do the math. So you end up with 3 plus negative 6 plus negative 4. That's where the negative 7 comes from right there. So what we have found here from that information, we found that x is negative 1 for the vertex, y is negative 7. So here it is. The equation for the axis of symmetry is this. So the equation for the axis of symmetry is x is negative 1, and the coordinates of the vertex is negative 1, negative 7. All of that you'll have to be able to find. Okay, so given that information, let's move on down. Let's do a couple of examples together. Number one, let's notice what it says here. It says find the equation of the axis of symmetry. So we want to find that first. And then it says find the coordinates of the vertex. Now we're not going to do all the problems here, just a couple for you to get you the idea. But let's start with number one here because it's a interesting one. Here we have A is equal to 1, B is equal to 8, and C is equal to 0, right? Because it's plus 0. So we always want to begin by identifying A, B, and C. So step one is to find the equation for the axis of symmetry. Axis equation. And to find that, we go x is equal to the opposite of b over 2a. All right, let's find that. If I take the opposite of b, well, b is 8, so I know that x is equal to negative 8 over 2 times a is 1, so that all works out to be negative 8 divided by 2, which is negative 4. So the equation is x equals negative 4. All right, well, 2, so that's the axis of symmetry. Now we need to find the vertex. Well, I know that if the vertex x value is negative 4, what we have to do is we have to substitute that in and we have to find y. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to change to red now just to give you kind of a difference of the two. There, so number 2 will find y. I'll just continue in red now. So if I'm going to find y, I have to take this x value and substitute it in for that x and for this x. All right, so finding this y, we have y is equal to, it's going to be x squared. So now when you put that negative 4, that negative in there, it's in parentheses. It's negative 4 squared plus 8 times negative 4. So negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16, plus 8 times negative 4 is negative 32, and that is equal to negative 4. Whoops, that equals negative 16. I got ahead of myself here. Let me go back and clean that up. Just jumping to the answer for the vertex. That is equal to negative 16. All right, so that's the value of y for the vertex. So the vertex point is equal to negative 4, negative 16. And there you have it. Okay, let's see if we can get one more question in really fast. I'm going to be pushing my time level, but we will give it a shot here. Let's jump down to number 5. All right, let's do number 5 together, and let's do the same thing, just so we can see it in an equation that has 3 terms. And then we're going to be doing this on the next page as well when we actually create the graphs. All right, so let's work number 5 together. A is equal to negative 3, B is equal to 18, and C is equal to negative 25. Okay, follow along and hit pause as you need to if I go too fast. But the first thing we have to do is find the axis of symmetry equation. All right, and that is found by x equals negative b over 2a. All right, so that in this case would be negative 18 over 2 times negative 3. Let's work that out. We have negative 18 divided by negative 6, and that turns out to be positive 3. Okay, so that's the axis of symmetry, x equals 3. All right, that's my first answer. So then, I'll change to red now. We need to find the vertex. To find the vertex, you then have to find y. Find y. To find y, we're going to take x equals 3, and we're going to put it in there and right there. And here's what we have. We have y equals negative 3 times 3 squared plus 18 times 3 minus 25. All right, let's get a little more space here. So if I work this out, watch carefully what happens here. You have to square the 3 first and get 9 times negative 3 plus 18 times 3. That equals 54 minus 25. So let's finish the math here. Negative 27 plus 54 minus 25. Add all that together, and I believe that comes out to be y equals 2. So that's my vertex. X was 3, y is 2. And there you have the vertex. All right, I'm going to stop this one and start one more video and show you what we'll do with this information to create our graphs. Talk to you in a moment.